This recording is titled The Christian Religion. This is Section C. Section C. Now, this is a continuation from the story I was telling in Section B. Now, Moses is, he's basically split the people and said, okay, you, and this is a group within the entirety of the group, okay? You can't fit all of those people in this scene. It doesn't work. But it's a group inside the whole giant swath of people. This is not every single person is not partaking in this. Let's build the golden calf and act like complete total buffoons and blah blah blah. This is the rabble rousing. There's always a rabble rouser group within the giant group. Always. I mean, we live in America. We see it on the news every damn day. So you know what I'm saying. So anyway, God opens the earth up and swallows a bunch of this rabble-rousing mixture of people and says, okay, yeah, I've had enough of your crap. And then the other people get smartened up out of it and say, holy crap, that was terrible. So anyway, lesson learned, and we're moving quickly now. Within the next, I want to say a day or two, but I'm vague on that. But anyway, Moses has to go back up the mountain again to finish the powwow, because they didn't finish the powwow. God, this Yahweh being taking this form, is really infusing him. That's why he was glowing. Those are his components. All four of his components are being infused, imbued, invived. And his mind component is learning all of this stuff. It's like it's being downloaded into him. Okay? So he has to go back up into the mountain because, number one, he broke the Ten Commandments. He broke those stone tablets. He broke them. He was a very temperamental person and threw them down because he was like enraged, and they broke. The kind of people, A-type personalities are like this. And I've been guilty once or twice. Not to that extreme. I don't think I would break the Ten Commandments after that kind of experience. But I don't know. I'm not Moses, so no way of telling. Anyway, so he goes back up to the mountain, finishes the powwow, finally comes back down, a new set of the Ten Commandments. Comes down with those and says, okay, here's the new set of the Ten Commandments. Let's stop being buffoons. Let's get on with the business that we're doing. All right. And then they took those Ten Commandments, and that's where the whole Ark thing came from. The Indiana Jones movies, the Ark. Oh, it's the Ark of the Covenant. Well, they put the Ten Commandments in the Ark with some other stuff, and you'll have to look it up, what the other stuff was, a branch, some manna, which is what they were eating back in those days. It was just food raining out of the sky. I'm not making this up. This is like literally written down in the Old Testament. It's about this story. I'm not making it up. It's a mystical time. Now, time moves forward, and they're doing all their stuff, and you can read the story. It's in the Old Testament, but time moves forward. As they get closer to the time, and a lot of people die out, because this is years and years and years go by. As they get closer to the time of, well, now it's only this many years left until we can finally go into the Promised Land, but they don't know when that is because, they don't determine that. The being that's guiding them, the being that's having other beings, that Yahweh is having other beings guide them and help them and advise them and do all this stuff. They're determining that, so they don't really know. The humans don't. Moses and the other humans, they don't really know, when the day is. But as you read the story, you see, well, the more years that went by and the closer they got to the time when they could cross over, they started having to do all of these battles. They were getting battle hardened. This is where the story gets interesting. And this is the part of the story you're never going to hear about in church, because this is where it gets really scary. And this is also where a lot of the kosher laws that deal with the other three components, not just the physical health of people, but, mind, soul, and spirit. This is where some of these kosher laws that we look at today and think, well, that seems preposterous. Well, it wasn't preposterous if you were living in that time, and let me explain why. Here's why it was not preposterous. I'm going to lay this out for you, and you're going to think, wow, I never thought of that before. Yeah, I know you haven't. But that's why you need to hear it now, so that things make sense for you in the 21st century. Now, back in those days and at that time, the paradigm surrounding those events and that place and time was very, 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 very different than anything we would be thinking of. Okay, this is a regular paradigm for us in the 21st century. Really, really different. Really different. One aspect of that difference is what we're going to talk about now. And this is where the mysticism of the events and of the paradigm literally scares the crap out of people. And that's why no one ever talks about it. But we are going to address it because it is the reality of the situation that will put things into perspective for us beings here in the 21st century that don't understand, well, what are these stupid kosher laws for, and why are we having to follow these laws of Moses and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm going to tell you that now. Okay, so you stop thinking, you're haters. No, it had to do with the times and what was going on in those paradigms of those times. But this is forgotten stuff, kind of like righteousness in its true form is forgotten stuff. They put this stuff away, stick it on the top shelf, and keep shoving it back and back and back as the centuries go on. But this is the reality. I'm fixing to lay it out right now. It had to do with the battles being fought because they needed to get battle hardened, because they were going to go in and possess the land. One point before I jump to that mystical stuff. Now, possessing the land in those days, let me tell you this, and this has to do with DNA. Okay, and this is going to shatter some of the dreams of the DNA folk that like to say all the DNA is the same, it came from here. It's also going to shatter some of the DNA ideas and dreams of the religious folk that say, oh, well, the humans all came from Adam and Eve, or this all came from Adam and Eve. Nonsense. Ridiculous nonsense. The Bible doesn't say this. The religious cronies may say this. Your pastor may say this. They sure as hell teach it to them in seminary and been brainwashing them for years and years on end with it. But it is not the truth. The truth is something closer to this. Back in those days, long time ago, this is a long time ago, thousands of years ago, it was a long time ago. This is a long time ago, even if we were talking about Christ born, the person Jesus Christ born into the Roman Empire. Hey, this is way, 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 way before the Roman Empire was even imagined or dreamed up. This is way a long time ago, okay? In the promised land that Martin Luther King liked to quote so much, and I loved when he said it so much because the tone of his voice just resonates. Now, check it out. In that land in those days, there was people with weird DNA. They really didn't belong on this planet. Their DNA and their four components were not conducive to whatever Yahweh had in mind for that particular area, but they were running the area. They were running the area. They staked it out and said, you know what? This is our area now. Now this is our area. And there was a bunch of them in that area. Now, just like any culture and just like any civilization today, anyone, I don't care where you go, one group, especially if it's the ruling group, is going to be affecting everything right down to the dogs and chickens and sheep. It's going to be affecting everything. It's going to be affecting the vibrational frequency of everything. Everything. Especially those kind of beings, because they weren't humanoid. That's too far. I went too far. They weren't the kind of human beings that other human beings like us were. They weren't the kind of human beings like the Israelites were. They were from a different DNA strain. They weren't the strain that came out of the Garden of Eden, which is what the whole Bible's about, that strain. But they also weren't the Chinese strain. They also weren't the strain that live in India. They also weren't the strain of Aborigines that live in Australia. They were a different strain. A different strain. Please get this into your head. And these fairy tales they tell you, a lot of them are fairy tales. A lot of this DNA stuff is fairy tales. Oh, all the DNA on the planet comes from... No, it does not. It does not. Go back to Genesis 1 and understand there's a giant gap between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And when I say giant gap, I'm talking many tens of thousands of years. Hundreds of thousands of years, possibly. Who knows, really? I don't know, so I shouldn't say that, but I don't know. But it was a giant gap of time. And this idea that, religions like the Christian religions under the Roman Empire likes to hand us this little package, nicely wrapped with this wonderful little bow on it, and say, oh, here's Christianity. Isn't it wonderful? Well, guess what? It's part of Earth. It's